I'd like to formally welcome you to the POW Self-Hypnosis for Guaranteed Results home study program. We have an exciting 7 days ahead of us in which you will discover how to make the most out of your mind to give you everything you want out of life. So, one of the things we'll be addressing is the big questions like why do some people succeed whilst others fail? Why are some people happy whilst others are miserable? Why do some people prosper in the same circumstances where other people remain poor? Why do some people have confidence whilst other people's are struck down by fear? Why are some people healthy all the time whilst others are constantly falling ill? Why are some people totally popular whilst others are ignored or worse still, avoided? The answer to all these questions lies in the amazing power of your unconscious mind. Inside each one of us, we have a blueprint for life. Now, depending on what this blueprint says, we'll either succeed or fail, be happy or sad, prosper or remain poverty stricken. That either because the blueprint itself wants this as an outcome, as part of what it expects out of life, or because it's a natural side effect, a consequence, or something else that that blueprint contains. As a good example, if you can't read, it's very difficult to educate yourself because you don't have access to the information that allows you to grow and learn from other people's thoughts before you. In the same way, if your blueprint is missing certain skills or abilities or certain things that you could have in order to prosper, in order to be happy or confident, in those circumstances, it becomes a unintended side effect that you don't have the things you want in life. Now, whether your blueprint actually wants you to be in this sort of negative side of life, or your blueprint's just missing certain things, which, if you had them, would make you wildly successful, happy, and have all the good things you want in life. Either way, this program will show you a powerful self hypnosis method in which we're going to show you how to change that blueprint so you can have success, happiness, wealth, confidence, health, and all the friends you could possibly want. That is my aim for you. Over the course of the next 7 days together, that's the things that we'll be focusing on, and we'll be focusing on how to move you from one side of the equation to the other side, the place where you want to be. I want you to introduce you to a hidden gold mine that lies buried deep inside our own minds. Think of a person that's been dropped in the middle of the mountainside somewhere with nothing but a shovel and a backpack to keep him company. Now, that person might be miserable and curse his luck for being stuck around the woods with no means of supporting himself. But what if I was to tell you that just around the corner from where he's at, there is a gold mine waiting to be discovered, and all he has to do is take the shovel and dig not even that hard, and all of a sudden he'll find fist-sized lumps of solid, pure gold, which he can stick in his backpack, hike onto the local town, and live the rest of his life in absolute luxury. In many respects, that's how we're born into this world. We have an amazing potential that's just resting, waiting to be activated inside of us. And to the extent that we ignore it and curse our fate, we're like that guy on the mountainside. The tools that we have don't look like they're worth much. But when you have one more thing, a little piece of knowledge, knowing where to dig and how to dig, suddenly you start pulling out valuable treasures from a place that no one would have expected to find them. We are standing on this gold mine right now. This gold mine lies hidden inside each one of us. It's inside our minds, and it is immensely powerful. This gold mine is going to give us the keys to living a richer, more full, happier life. This is what the power self hypnosis method is designed to teach you how to do. You see, life was meant to be easy. When you get in the sync with the rhythms of nature, then you have a certain flow to things and things just come, things just go your way all the time. When you fight nature, on the other hand, it becomes hard. When you channel those natural forces, it becomes easy because now you don't have to make all the effort. The effort is being made for you. All you do is you direct the energy one way or another to get the results that you want. At this point, amazing things happen in people's lives. This is what I call the seventh law of the mind. It's the principle of flow. If you trust in nature, if you trust the nature of your own mind and know how to activate it, how to guide the streams that are already inside of you, at that point, you have virtually unlimited potential for success, happiness, wealth, confidence, health, friendship, anything you want out of life is all waiting for you to get if you can direct that stream in the direction you want. But there's another law of mind that I'd like you to be aware of. I call it the third law. It's based on the psychological principle that perception is projection. You see, people don't see the world around them the way that it is. They see the world around them in the way that they are. You project whatever you have inside yourself onto the world, and it becomes so. So if you have a distrusting nature, if you have something inside you that's unhealthy, unhappy about life, you're going to find plenty of evidence around you to justify that, to be miserable, to have no friends. On the other hand, if you have something inside for you that looks for solutions, that looks for friendships, that looks for the good in life, you will find exactly the same things in exactly the same situations. Ironically, as you change what happens inside, the world around you changes as well. And this is very important. The world that you live in is a reflection of who you are inside. Change that. In other words, change that blueprint of who you are inside. And suddenly the world around you changes in amazing and wonderful ways. Here's a simple example of what I mean, straight from the psychological literature. There is a quirky fact that a lot of people aren't aware of, which is if you happen to have very young grandparents, let's say that your parents married young and had you quite young, chances are you will live a lot longer and be much more active in old age than if you had so-called old grandparents. So if your grandparents were still in their, say, 40s or maybe even 50s when you were born, versus grandparents who were in their 60s or 70s, there is a difference in terms of the blueprint that sits inside the mind. You see, grandparents inside the unconscious are a symbol for what old age meant to be like. If your grandparents were really old, the symbols are of weakness, of ill health, and those sort of things, and of not a very long lifespan, because chances are they died within a certain amount of time. If, on the other hand, your grandparents were quite young, that means the symbol you have inside, the blueprint you have inside for old age is one full of vigor, much more life, and much more time left before the inevitable decline. So we're going to use the same blueprint. We're going to use the same natural law in order to achieve the things that you want. You see, you're not stuck. If you happen to have had old grandparents, it doesn't mean that you have to pass away earlier than someone who had young grandparents. All it means is you have to work a little bit more to change the blueprint inside yourself, and then you get to live just as long, just as healthily, and just as happily as someone who happened to luck out when it comes to that sort of thing. The same is true about anything you approach in life. Rich people find it easier to be rich because that's the attitudes, the mindset, and the experiences that they've grown up around. Those things are part of the blueprint now. So even if they lose their fortunes, finding their way back tends to be easier for them than someone who has always been poor, because that is a different blueprint. However, we were not stuck. How do we know this? Well, there's plenty of people who have made it from rags to riches, who grew up in the poorest of the poor neighborhoods, decided never again, and totally reconditioned their mind, changed the blueprint so that now they end up having wild riches and successes. You can do that for yourself in any part of your life with the power of self-hypnosis method that we'll be discussing over the next 7 days. This method is going to be your key for unlocking the gold mine that's waiting inside you. Your mind has hidden talents, hidden abilities, amazing talents that, if you only learn to activate them, will not only make your life easy and more fun, it will get you everything you've always desired. Within reason, it can make every dream come true. I'd like for you to realize and really begin to understand that anything is truly possible, or at least, shall we say, almost anything. If your aim in life is to grow wings and fly, well, I'm not the person to help you with that. But if it comes to something that human beings have achieved in the past, then you can do the same thing. Healing is a natural part of what your body does anyway. There's an old saying that the doctor dresses the wounds, but God heals it. Inside you, you have that power, that force that makes things heal and become realigned. Your genetic makeup knows how your body is meant to fit together and knows how to make it well again once something happens to make it all go all right. The same is true for wealth, abundance, or success in your life. Some of you may have heard of what's called the law of attraction, of how to attract good things to yourself. Have you noticed how some people just seem to be magnetized? Good things come to them, and no matter where they happen to be. A businessman finds business deals all over the place. A salesman finds people wanting to buy their product without even having to look for it. What are these people doing? Well, there's a part of your mind called the reticular activating system. It's a kind of a connection of neurological centers, which keeps you awake during the daytime. But more than that, it keeps your mind alert and looking for certain things. If you've ever bought a car only to find that everyone in your town seems to be driving the same car suddenly, or bought a dress and only to find that every woman seems to be wearing it, you'll know the kind of effect I'm talking about. Basically, making an important decision like that has stimulated the reticular activating system to look for certain things, to look for certain information that was there all along. But your mind just ignored, deleted, put out of your way. So people who are lucky in life, people who are successes in life, all that they've done is if they've programmed the reticular activating system to pay attention to certain kinds of information so that when they come, they pay attention to them, they spot them, they take the opportunity, and suddenly here's another success waiting to happen. If you like the analogy, think of it as someone who's running around with their eyes closed in the world. Now, all around them, the air is filled with little golden tickets. From time to time, if they're lucky and hold their hands out, one of these golden tickets will just land in the palm of their hand, and the people will think, wow, that's amazing. I'm so lucky. Look at what this bit of good fortune just happened to me. Now, other people are walking through lives with their eyes wide open. They can see the tickets around them and then just have to walk over to where there's more of them, hold the hands out, and just pluck them out of thin air because they're always there. Opportunities constantly exist. Whether opportunities for the good things or bad things, they're constantly existing around us. And it's a question of what we're paying attention to and what we're making the most of that decides what we get out of life. Now, again, here's a great example to illustrate this point. There was a interesting thing TV show on British television some years ago in which they decided to carry out an experiment on luck and success. They brought in a bunch of volunteers, half of them who are self-professed lucky people who make good business deals, win lottery tickets, good things always happen to them. The other half were self-professed losers. Bad things always happen no matter where they go. If they go on a holiday, they'll be breaking their legs and ending up in hospital and having horror story tells. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. Now, to test these people, they put them through different kinds of experiments. One of them was particularly interesting. They asked these people to go and meet someone in a particular coffee shop. Now, in order to get to this coffee shop, they had to walk down one particular road, which had been set up with hidden cameras. On this road, they placed a £50 note, like a $100 bill, somewhere lying on the street, and one of those scratch cards with another $100, just already pre-scratched with the winning numbers already exposed, again scrunched up and lying on the ground. That's the setup. Then they observe to find out what these people do when they walk past it. Now, without exception, all the lucky people walking down the street are walking along, and you can kind of see them do a double take. They look down, they see something, they stop, they investigate, they pick it up, and whoa, hey presto, they're $100 richer. Now, the interesting thing is, with the unlucky people, the exact opposite thing happened. They're walking down the street and they don't even notice these things. In fact, one person noticed the $100 bill, and you could literally see him mentally shaking his head as though he was saying to himself, no, that's just too good to be true. And without bothering to investigate, he walks off. This is the power that your mind has. You can reprogram your mind to find the opportunities, to find the successes, to find the luck in your life as simply and as easily and naturally as those lucky people did. The same is true to the keys to happiness. I've traveled the globe. I've been to Asia. I've been to South America. I've seen some of the poorest countries in the world. And ironically, it's the poorer countries in which people tend to be happiest. Now, that doesn't make sense. They don't have TVs and video recorders. Some of them have trouble figuring out how they're going to eat the next day. And yet, people just seem to be happy. Now, I'm not suggesting that poverty makes you happy, by no means. But what the difference is that these people had an attitude. They chose to be happy. There is a culture of happiness. And that just goes to prove again what people have said throughout the ages, that people are just as happy as they make their minds up to be. Again, with the power of self-hypnosis at your fingertips, you can be as happy, as delirious as you want to be in life, because now we get to change everything from the inside so that you get to look outside for yourself and find the confirmation, find those happy moments, just as those lucky people found the extra cash and found good relationships inside their lives. Again, the same is true of friends. Finding more friends is just a question of your attitude. Everyone loves hanging around people with good energy, a good vibe, who are friendly and happy. So when your happiness goes up, your ability to find friends goes up, your ability to make new friends goes up. You know the old expression, misery loves company? Well, it's true. The more miserable you become, the more you try and make people around you miserable. And guess what? You're going to be pushing away all those potential friends because people don't want to be that way. You know the old expression, laugh and the world loves with you, cry and you cry alone. Well, there's a lot of truth to all of these sayings. So, whether your aim in life is to kickstart your natural healing mechanism, whether it's to attract wealth and abundance and success into your life, whether it's to have friends and be happier, whether you want to have more wisdom or solve problems, the keys lie inside you already. Over the next 7 days, I'm going to teach you step by step how to use the power self hypnosis method to make all these things part of your life now. So that as you have these master keys, you get to use them for anything that you want. That puts you in charge. You are ultimately the person who decides how your life should be, what you should have in your life more of, and what you want to cut out of your life. Now, before we dive into the program, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the concepts and some of the ideas I would be using throughout this program, just so you understand what we're talking about. First of all, we're going to be talking about the concept of different minds, the conscious and the unconscious mind. Now, when I use these concepts, please bear in mind that I'm using them as a way of making distinctions about things so that you can understand things more clearly. In reality, there's just you. You are you. You have one mind, and that's it. That's who you are. Now, that mind has different functions, abilities, and capacities. They have different specialities, if you like, which I'm going to now use the terms conscious and unconscious minds for, so that you can basically understand what part or what aspects of your mind I'm talking about. When people talk about the conscious mind, we're basically talking about your everyday normal state of awareness. The conscious mind is actually quite limited. It can handle between 5 and 9 bits of information. This magic number is 7 plus or minus 2. It's very, very good at planning things. It's very good at taking a mental trip to the future and breaking things down to steps in between to make sure that it can get there. So without a conscious mind, you wouldn't really be able to plan effectively. Without planning, you'd be kind of left in this kind of halfway world where not too many things work out. Now, the beauty of the conscious mind is it's all about self-awareness. If you had no conscious mind, you wouldn't be able to appreciate a beautiful scene. You couldn't fall in love and know you're doing it. You couldn't stand back after having done a hard piece of work and look at it and be proud of what you've accomplished. So your conscious mind is very, very important. It allows you to appreciate the good things in life, and it allows you to decide, what is it that I want more of? Your conscious mind is also the place where you reason. So reason and logic rests in the conscious mind, and it's a very valuable skill to have. Western society is built around a lot of conscious mind skills, logical reasoning skills about planning things through, following things through, working things out, that kind of thing. Now, there's certain kinds of problems that the conscious mind is great at resolving. Now, if you have that kind of problem in your life, chances are you've already resolved it. I have forgotten all about it. That's why you have a conscious mind. It does it, solves it, done, does it, on you go. On the other hand, you also have an unconscious mind, and that is a treasure house of wisdom, insights, memories, learnings, experiences, all kinds of wonderful things, as well as unpleasant things as well. A nice analogy between the conscious and the unconscious mind is to imagine a captain and his boat and his crew. The captain is the conscious mind. The captain is there to set the direction and tell everyone else what to do. The captain's role is not to do everything. It'd be ridiculous for the captain to go down into the boiler room and push more coal into the steamer. It'd be ridiculous for him to be running around on all the decks, scrubbing the floors and try and steer the boat at the same time and paint the ship and make the meals and all the other activities. That's what the crew's there for. The crew, the pilot, the ship itself. That's your unconscious mind. Your unconscious is there to run your body, is there to make sure you survive and thrive in an environment. Your unconscious mind is a place where emotions come from. The emotions are the fuel that drive us. With no emotions, you have no drive. You have no ability to do anything or achieve anything. In fact, with no emotions, you probably end up getting depressed and dying. In fact, that's what depression is. Depression is a natural mechanism to basically cut out all emotions so that you don't have to feel the negative ones. Now, that can be very useful in the short term. If really bad things are happening around you, a little bit of depression calms everything right down. You don't have to be affected by it too much. Of course, in the long term, it's not useful at all. And at that point, the captain, the conscious mind, has to start making decisions about what you get to feel and what not. Here's the irony, of course. The captain can't make you feel anything. You can't choose to feel happy or sad, but you can give instructions. You see, the unconscious mind is like a faithful, loving servant. It's eager to please, like a puppy running around asking to be taught a new trick. And the unconscious mind is the place where emotions are stored. It's also the place in which negative experiences are kind of hidden away. It's called repression, or the mechanism is called repression. And again, a wonderful tool, because there are some things in your life that you need never ever look at again, and you'll be a happier person for it. Now, if that mechanism is going overboard and making your life miserable, then the captain gets to decide and say, hang on a second, this is no good. Whatever that area of life is that you're protecting, it's time to blow off some steam, let some of that stuff out. We can handle it now. You see, another important principle is that your whole mind, your whole body tends toward health. Now, you know this to be true. If you cut yourself, what happens? Your body naturally heals the wound. The blood starts coagulating, you create a little wound over the top. Before you know it, that falls off. You have clean, healthy skin underneath it again. How do you do that? You have no idea. But the body knows how to do it. It tends towards health, it tends toward balance. If the room gets too hot, you start sweating to cool down. Why? Because if your internal organs get too hot, they start cooking and you can't live anymore. So your body's designed to keep a certain level of balance, to keep you healthy, and if you get injured in some way, to repair the damage so you can get on with your life. The same is true of your emotional life and your intellectual life. There are events in everyone's history that are, let's face it, unpleasant. Now, these events can sometimes be frozen in time and you can forget about them. Now, if you can live your life happily without ever going back to them, great. To the extent, however, that they start interfering in your present life, well, you get to direct your unconsciousness, go back inside that bubble and clean it up so that by the time you're finished with it, you're a healthy, happy, vibrant human being. As a rule, whenever you are lacking energy, whenever you have not enough life enthusiasm or zest for things, you want to look at some kind of bubble inside you that's trapping the emotional energy, trying to protect you from something, because that's where the payoff is going to be. When you burst that bubble in a way that's safe for you, you're going to be able to bring out all kinds of abilities, extra energy, extra enthusiasm, creativity, spontaneity, problem-solving skills that you didn't even know existed. But you have to be able to direct your mental energies to burst those bubbles, to reclaim that power. The unconscious mind is also the place of storing your memories. It's the place where all your experiences are stored, wisdom, and your understandings about the world and the way it works. Think of it this way. Just think of your telephone number for a moment. Now, where did that number come from? If you are honest about it, you really don't know. It's just there when you need it. That's how the unconscious mind works. It stores information. When you need it, it brings it up to you. Some information is easy to get to, like your telephone number. Some information is kind of, difficult to get to, but you'll get to with a bit of working. Other information, it's very difficult to get to unless you know certain tricks and techniques to get at it. Now, we're not so much interested in memory as such. What we're interested is in the experiences and the wisdom that those memories represents. You see, there's something called pre-conscious learning. Most of your life, most of the things that are really valuable in your life, you learned without ever knowing how you learned to do it. For example, nodding and shaking your head is a classic nonverbal signal, and we don't know how we picked it up. There are societies in which shaking or nodding your head doesn't mean the same things as they mean in the Western world. The truth is that we pick these things up as children. When we watch our parents interacting, when we watch our friends interacting, we very quickly pick up the message that certain nuances and a raised eyebrow, a frown, a tension in the body, a shaking of the head, a loud noise, these mean certain things that no one really told us what they should mean. We just kind of picked it out from the environment. Here's a great example from childhood psychology. This is quite a scatological example, but I think it makes the point quite nicely. Infants really don't understand the world outside them too much, so they have no real aversions except for certain things like, sudden motion and loud noises. So, for example, an infant will quite happily play with manure, its own or someone else's, and not know any different. Now, somewhere along the lines, children learn that, certain things aren't to be played with and are to be avoided. The way they learn that is again by adults' reactions. When a child makes shall we say, some potty humor at their table, the adults scrunch up the nose, pull back, and make a certain gesture. Whichever time the child learns is one of disgust, it's basically of aversion. It creates a taboo. So by the time a child is 2 or 3 years old, you can get a little piece of chocolate formed in the shape of a dog turd, put it on a plate, and the child will refuse to eat it even if it knows that it's chocolate, just because of the shape that it's assumed. Why? Because it triggers all those unconscious learning mechanisms which are inside. This, by the way, shows us how we get stuck in life. You see, a lot of the patterns that we run in life, we haven't chosen. We've adopted and we've learned them from the people around us. A classic example is a phobia. For example, a fear of spiders, fear of cats or dogs. A lot of these things are things that people haven't developed from themselves. For example, a classic way a phobia develops is a dog bites a young child and then that stays in the memory, grows larger over lifetime. So by the time the adult's there, even a small chihuahua will trigger off a panic attack. Now, some people don't have any negative experiences in their life and still have a phobia. How does that happen? Well, if that happens, then look to the parents. Chances are the mother, the father, or someone close in the family had a strong aversion to spiders, dogs, cats, whatever it is. And that got passed on in the same way as the taboo around dog toes got passed on to little children. It happens unconsciously. This is called pre-conscious learning in the psychological literature, and it abounds in everything that we do. Now, many pre-conscious learning things are great for us. It frees us up and makes us able to live life and really thrive. Pre-conscious learning has helped us learn things like table manners, learn how to treat other people, how to be respectful, how to tell certain emotions from people, how to read certain people, how to expect or predict certain experiences. Without pre-conscious learning, you wouldn't know how to open a door because every time you met a new door, you have to figure out what the hell is this thing and how do I use it? But your ability to have these patterns inside forms a tremendous resource. It can also form a tremendous chain around your neck if it happens to be negative patterns. Now, with the power of self-hypnosis at your fingertips, you get to root out those chains and link by link destroy them so that you are freer than you ever felt before, you have more energy than you ever had before, and you have all the good things that you've always wanted to have inside your life. There's an important principle when it comes to unconscious processes that you really should be aware of, and that is the speed at which the unconscious work. The unconscious mind is very strange in that it works both at lightning fast rates and incredibly slowly at the same time. As an example, your unconscious mind will be aware of what's going on in the world about a half a second before you are consciously aware of anything. This time lack in consciousness is just a natural part of the way human beings work. So when you think is happening right now, isn't happening right now. It happened about half a second ago and is an illusion of consciousness that's gets created inside the mind. So you think it's happening in real time. That's why true sports stars, that's why people who are very good at things basically are relying on their unconscious mind to do the work because you don't have that half a second to spare when you're in the middle of a competition. You have to let your unconscious mind do the work and then just kind of have this overseeing function to make sure that it's all going in the direction that you want it to go in. So that half a second delay is vital because in that half second, your unconscious mind basically decides what are you going to be aware of? What is it going to let you realize is happening? You see, in that half a second, all those unlucky people got to forget about the fact that $100 bill, or a £50 note in this case, was stuck in the crack of a pavement. In that half second of time, the lucky people got that little bit of information that said, hey, pay more attention to this corner of the street because something really good is happening here. That half second is everything. By the same token, there is an old principle which is you're the last person to notice change. Have you ever noticed this? You know, when you were a child, a little auntie would come to visit, maybe come back after 2 months and tell you how much you've grown. You can go, I don't know, ever really? Then you measure yourself against the door, and sure enough, you're 2 inches taller. The same is true about emotional changes and about changes in character. In fact, it's true of physical changes. You go to the gym and work out for 2 months, and you don't really see the changes. And yet people look at you differently, they start noticing things differently, especially if they haven't seen you for a while, because they see the contrast. Now, the reason I'm mentioning these things is because of the kind of principles I want you to pay attention to when you're using the power of self-hypnosis and that program for yourself. If we want to use an old analogy, remember the tortoise and the hare who had a race? Who ends up winning the race? The tortoise. Although everyone would think the smart money would be on the hare. Well, this is how our minds work. The conscious mind is like the hare. It's constantly jumping around, racing around the place, jumping to conclusions and making things happen. That's a wonderful attribute to have. I'm not knocking it. The unconscious mind, particularly when it comes to goals, on the other hand, is much more like the tortoise. It kind of takes time to wind up and to get itself going into gear and get its thing doing. But once it's doing its thing, the RN years, the unconscious mind will win the race every time more quickly than the conscious mind ever could. So the smart money is on the tortoise, the smart money is on the unconscious. But the key thing you must allow the unconscious to have is time to do its work. It took time for the blueprint that you have inside yourself to be set, and it'll take time to allow that blueprint to be changed. Now, it's true, a competent therapist, particularly a hypnotherapist, will be able to change that blueprint pretty quickly, sometimes in as little as half an hour to an hour. That's absolutely true. But there are certain problems that occur in self-hypnosis that you can't bypass unless you have another person guiding you through it. So the way we make up for it is by allowing the tortoise to do its thing, to wind up the Energizer Bunny and get it going on its path, and then letting it do its thing. You see, there's one part of the mind we haven't discussed yet, and that's called the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper is attached to the conscious mind, and as the name implies, is a gatekeeper between what happens on the outside world and what you allow inside. The function of the gatekeeper is very simple. It's basically to keep things the same. Its purpose in life is to make your life easier. It's designed to make your life easier by basically rejecting information that doesn't match the blueprint you already have inside. In this way, you don't have to keep making new decisions. For example, every time you see a new door, you know how to use it because your gatekeeper will trash anyone that says, oh, that's not a door, that's a flying saucer, or that's an alien ready to eat up your hand. Now, if you tell it to a little child and that child trusts you, chances are they'll believe the door is out to bite the hand off because that's what children do. They have no gatekeeper yet. So they basically borrow a trusted adult and borrow that person's gatekeeper and start believing what that adult says. So the gatekeeper is designed to keep information out, which is tremendously useful when someone tries to persuade you of stupid things like jump off a building and you'll fly, or don't touch that door, it'll eat you up. but it's also very harmful when it keeps you stuck with a blueprint or an aspect of the blueprint that you don't want anymore. The gatekeeper has some very powerful tools at his disposal. These include the emotions like fear, doubt, anger. These are psychological defense mechanisms to automatically reject information. Sometimes laughter is part of that doubt thing as well. It's just laughing at people saying that's ridiculous, it's absurd, it's not realistic. These are all classic gatekeeper tools to keep information out. Now, you know this has happened because, in the past, maybe you've given people advice, and there's people who just go and reject it out of hand, go, no, 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 that's not possible because of these reasons, or I've tried that and it doesn't work. Now, you know for a fact your advice is good because you've done it, you've seen other people do it, and it works. So why haven't they taken it on board? Well, because the gatekeeper is not allowing them to do or to take it on board for them. So your task as a self-hypnotist is to get that gatekeeper out of action, out of commission, so that you can go straight to the unconscious mind, straight to where the blueprint is, and start changing that blueprint to make it a richer, healthier, happier blueprint. Now, a final concept I want to talk about is the idea of willpower. A lot of people think that they need to have willpower to change. I will go to the gym. I will force myself to this. I will stop smoking. I will lose weight. I will go to lectures. I will do my homework and so on. Now, the problem with willpower is, believe it or not, willpower does not exist. It's a fiction of the imagination. We made it up. What exists is attention. Attention at the conscious level and attention at the unconscious level. Now, with your conscious attention, you can override the unconscious attention. In other words, you can override what the unconscious mind is doing. And that's what some people consider to be willpower. If you decide you're going to go to the gym, but you feel really bad about it, your conscious attention might say, no, I'm still going to go. You go there, you make yourself do it, you force yourself to do it. Now, whilst your attention is active and engaged in what you're doing, hey, you're doing fine. The problem with that kind of willpower, with that kind of attention is, the conscious mind is limited. Remember, you can only think of 5 to 9 bits of information at any one time. So the moment you get distracted, guess what happens? Your willpower disappears. If you're a smoker, the moment you're distracted, the cigarette ends up in your hand because your unconscious attention is now allowed to free to roam and do its natural thing, which is the blueprint says you smoke, so you smoke. Same is true if you're doing a diet. And when your willpower breaks, when your attention gets distracted, what happens? You find yourself in the fridge, opening it up, that cheesecake in hand, and ready to munch away. Why? Because that's part of your blueprint. It's not that you're weak-willed. It's not that you can't change. It's purely that you're using the wrong part of your mind to try and make the change. You're putting your attention in the wrong place. Now, attention, believe it or not, is the key to making changes. It's just the question of where do you put the attention in order to rewrite the blueprint so that the unconscious attention ends up giving you everything you've wanted out of life. Essentially, what we're activating is the third law of the mind: perception is projection. In other words, whatever is inside your blueprint is how you'll make the world around you conform to. There's another principle which we're going to be using in the power self-hypnosis method in order to actually make changes at the unconscious level, change the unconscious attention, change the unconscious blueprint, and thereby change your life. It's called the attention principle, believe it or not. It's the second principle. When you change the flow of your attention, energy goes to some other part of your mind. When that energy goes to that part of the mind blossoms, it grows. When it grows enough, the blueprint is different. Here's a couple of examples what I mean. Go ahead and think of someone you really like right now, or a situation that you really like. Now, when you think about that person or that situation, what happens? You feel good, right? Now, if you think about someone you dislike, if you think about a situation or a person that you really get your back up, what happens? You feel bad. Now, this is not rocket science. We all know this. But notice how just by shifting your attention, you've changed your mood. When you go to the gym, something else happens. A lot of people find it only difficult to get the decision to go to the gym. Once they're actually at the gym and their body starts moving, it activates a different set of resources, a different set of memories, and their body starts feeling good again. The endorphins kick in, they start naturally feeling the happy vibe, and they start asking themselves, why did I ever have a problem coming here? This is fantastic. Now, that again shows how the unconscious level you can have completely paradoxical blueprints and they get laid over one over the other. Whilst you're at home, you have the top layer of the blueprint, which basically says avoid the gym, it's too much effort. But whilst you're actually at the gym, that layer gets peeled away, and there's another program, another blueprint that says when your body's in movement in this way, you love it, it feels great, and therefore do more of it. Now, of course, that's an unconscious conflict at that point. When you have that conflict, that's why you can feel terrible before you go to the gym and feel great whilst you're at there. Now, wouldn't it make more sense to simply change the top layer of the blueprint so you can feel as good about going to the gym as you feel afterwards for having been there? That's what the power of self hypnosis gives you the ability to do. It gives you the ability to change what the unconscious blueprint is, to change the unconscious attention, because at that point, naturally, all the energy goes in the direction that you want it to go. It's streamlined. Life becomes easy, natural, and effortless. No willpower required, no forcing required, no unpleasantness required. This is incidentally why so many people have failed in things in the past. It's because they're using the wrong mind to solve the problem. If the problem is lodged in the unconscious, well, you'll need to get to the unconscious to solve the problem. So by changing it at the level where the problem exists, that's where you create true freedom. That's why the power of self-hypnosis can totally transform your life. You don't need it to solve those problems you can already solve because you already solve it. You'll need it to solve those problems you haven't been able to solve yet, because we'll show you how to go or where to go inside your mind to make that happen. We're going to use the laws of the mind. We're going to silence this gatekeeper, and then we're going to give you the tools so you can rewrite the blueprint any way that you want to. I want to clear up some misconceptions or concerns or questions that people tend to have about hypnosis so that you can really dedicate yourself fully to the process that we have prepared for you. The four big questions that people have, or concerns, shall we say, are: will I get stuck in hypnosis? Is it safe? Will it make my mind weaker? And can anyone do it in work? Do I have the capacity to do it? I'd like to address those questions one by one and all in one go. Basically, hypnosis, self-hypnosis in particular, is one of the most natural states in the world. In fact, you will spontaneously fall into self-hypnosis little trances throughout the day without even realizing it. That's why you have the capacity to change in life. Things happen in life, you hit this little mini hypnotic experience. That experience then allows to internalize it. It changes the blueprint subtly, which means the next day you're not quite the same way. You repeat these mini trances over a period of time, and from one year to the next, you're a different person. That's how it works. The experiences build up, waiting for a mini trance to occur for you to be able then to have those experiences, pop into the unconscious, rewrite the blueprint, and then by the time the guardian is back, by the time the gatekeeper is woken up again, you've rechanged. You're a different person. So the first thing to realize is it's totally natural, which means anyone can do it. If you're an adult, in fact, if you're a teenager and have made it this far, then you can do it. You could not have survived without the ability to go into hypnosis, self-hypnosis, and make those changes. Now, hopefully, understanding this natural phenomenon will show you how it's impossible to ever get stuck in it. How can you get stuck? Can you get stuck in sleep? No. There's no sleeping beauty that sleeps forever. Eventually, your body will find a natural cycle to come back out again. You've hit all these mini trances throughout your life anyway, and you've always come back because your body knows how to do it. So the worst thing that can happen to you in self-hypnosis, and it's something to look out for, is that you fall asleep. You fall asleep, have a great rest, you wake up refreshed and revitalized. Now, the only problem about falling asleep is maybe you fell asleep before you had the chance to change the blueprint, in which case you're going to have to do it again. Now, sometimes you fall asleep after you've influenced the blueprint, which is the perfect set of conditions. We'll talk more on that later. For the moment, just realize it's totally natural. You cannot get stuck, and it's totally safe. Now, for those Freudians amongst you who think that the unconscious is this pit of evil full of seething desires that have to be repressed, well, there is an element of your mind that is that way. And the vast superior element of your mind is a healthy, happy, powerful place. It functions and it functions beautifully. It keeps you alive in a way that is so complex that it's even scientists now don't fully appreciate how it works. It keeps your blood pumping, your heart beating, your temperature at exactly the right level. It moves the blood flow from your core to the external based on what happens to be needed. Do the muscles need more effort? Is it too hot? Is it too cold? It gets you to sweat when you need to sweat. It gets you to heat up when you need to heat up. It chills you to put on more layers. It starts shivering to keep warmth in. It changes your emotions to motivate you to do things that are good for you and change them back to stop you from doing things that are bad for you, all dependent, of course, on that blueprint which is inside. It keeps your blood sugar levels constant. When the food comes into your mouth, it knows how to chew it, how to use the right kind of elements of saliva to start digesting it, how to digest in your stomach, how to move it through your internal system and draw the nutrients out and expel all the waste. If you take poison, it knows how to regurgitate it before it does any harm. If it enters your system, it knows how to draw the poisons out of your system. That's what your liver is for. That's to a certain extent what the kidneys are for also. Your body is a beautiful, sophisticated, complicated machine, and it requires something to keep it going. Your unconscious mind has done that. Moreover, your unconscious mind has protected your conscious mind from all kinds of things that you're not ready to handle yet. It protects you from emotions. A trauma happens, it packs it away in cotton wool for some later date until you're ready to deal with it, not now when you're really in the middle of living your life. It protects you mentally just in the same way as it protects you physically. Think of it. Everyone's had the experience of a near accident which has been narrowly avoided. How does it happen? You're driving along. Before you know it, somehow you swerve a car, you change lane, and you keep driving along. It takes you a second or two for your mind to catch up and realize that the car in front of you just suddenly stopped and you did exactly the right things without thinking about it on automatic pilot, the exact right things to keep you safe, healthy, and alive. That is your unconscious mind at work, and that's the power that's been protecting you your entire life. Now, when you use self hypnosis, you open a window of opportunity to talk directly to that part of your mind without interference. If it's been protecting your entire life, why on earth would it stop now? It won't. Self hypnosis is totally safe because those defense mechanisms are still there, ready to roll, ready to protect you from stuff. If you're not ready to handle something yet, then you have to work really hard to get to the point where you can handle it. And then the memory, the conditions, the ideas will allow themselves to surface. We're going to show you how to do that and do that safely on day 5. For the moment, realize that no matter what you do, you're going to be totally safe because your mind has protected you your whole life and it's going to continue doing so for the rest of your life. In self hypnosis, it does an even better job because now you get to have an interplay of consciousness. Your conscious understandings get to influence the unconscious blueprint to create a healthier blueprint to get a better, stronger, more vibrant life for you. Now, that's the final question. Will it weaken your mind, weaken your willpower? Hopefully by now, you will see just how ridiculous that question is. It just simply won't happen. Your unconscious mind is there to protect you. Why would it make your mind weaker? If anything, it gives you more power. Power to control yourself, power to control your destiny, power to control your body, speed up healing, improve your memory, learning rate, friendships, happiness, health, success. All that is open to you when you master the power of self hypnosis. Does that make you weaker? No, it makes you stronger. If that is weakness, if living a healthy, vibrant, happy life where all the good things come to you and you get to choose what you want out of life, if that's a weakness, then please make me weaker because that's something that I really want. Now, before we finish today's program or today's session, I'd like to talk a little bit about what you can expect from this program. In the next 7 days, you're going to get a solid foundation on how to use the power of self hypnosis in your life. We're going to leave no stone unturned. We're going to focus purely on the practical aspects, the techniques you need to do so you can use self hypnosis in your life to achieve pretty much any outcome that you want. We're not going to go into too much theory, no more than you'll need to actually understand what you're doing. We'll show you how to make it work for you and how to overcome the typical problems of why self hypnosis has failed for other people. Because I want you to succeed with this. The power of self hypnosis is such an amazing force for good in your life. and actually such an amazing force for good in other people's lives. Because when your life gets totally transformed, when you're a happy, strong, healthy individual, that attitude exudes from you and affects other people. It infects other people. Remember, we talked about pre-conscious learning? Well, people will unconsciously learn from you how to be happier and healthier just by hanging around you. Now, isn't that something worth aiming for? So, later on in this session, we're going to take you through a little process to keep you motivated to go through the entire 7-day program. Each day of the 7-day program puts a little piece of the self hypnosis puzzle into action inside your mind and starts the mechanism working for you. So by the time you finish on day 7, you'll be an expert at self hypnosis. You'll know how to change problems, change habits, change beliefs, change limitations, change your life. Now, this is day 1, and we're going to finish day 1 in a moment's time with a kind of motivational piece to basically start activating your unconscious mind, getting its attention, and getting it to want to help out with this whole program. Because after all, you want to have the unconscious mind on board just as much as your conscious mind. Incidentally, if you're excited right now, you're in the right place because excitement comes from the unconscious. If you feel excitement, enthusiasm, and a sense of, I really want this, you're in exactly the right place. It means you've just stimulated the right part of your unconscious attention, and that enthusiasm is going to steer you through this program. Now, tomorrow, on day 2, titled A Foolproof Step-by-Step Method for Hypnotizing Yourself, we're basically going to start looking at the magic state of self-hypnosis and how to get to it. Now, in reality, there's no magic to self-hypnosis. It's a totally natural and realistic and normal function. And we're going to show you step by step how to get into self-hypnosis, how to do it safely, how to not get stuck or any of these other problems people might be afraid of, and how to make it work for you. Already, from the point of tomorrow, you're going to start conditioning your mind to create a window of opportunity. Now, the purpose of using self-hypnosis in terms of the actual hypnotic state is purely to open a door to your unconscious and say, hey, unconscious, time to listen up. Do these things. You're going to find out exactly how to do that, exactly how to condition your mind, and exactly how to overcome some of the more common problems in tomorrow's session. Then on day 3, entitled How to Program Your Mind to Get What You Want Automatically, we're going to look at the science and art of goals. Now, we're going to use the goals in a very different way to most people. Whilst we'll look at similar formulas like SMART goals and how to set goals and what goals to set and how not to set them, that sort of stuff, very valuable information. We'll use that and go well beyond that, because the thing that I'm more interested in is, why do goals fail? You see, chances are if you've picked up this program, you've come across some form of goal setting mechanism before in the past. If you've done that and have given up on that, chances are you don't know why they failed. You set those goals, you wrote them down, you had them in a positive, and you made your affirmations, yet they failed. Why was that? That is exactly the question we're going to be answering on day 3. And more than just asking those questions, I want to show you how to solve those problems for yourself. So that when you set a goal that's realistic and is something that's going to enhance your life, you'll actually can achieve it. I want to show you how to do that on day 3. Then we come on to day 4. Day 4 is entitled Potent Suggestion Tactics to Quickly Unlock the Power of Your Mind. Now that you know how to set the conditions inside your mind, the hypnotic state, you know how to set targets, which is what the goal setting day was all about. Now it's time to actually get some work done. In order to start changing the blueprint, you're going to need some tools. That tool is called suggestion. Now, there are many different ways of using suggestions and many different ways of using suggestions within the hypnotic state. We're going to cover the 4 classic methods of suggestion, show you how to use them, how to combine them, and how to put them together into a simple and effective method to get what you want. Next, we'll move on to day 5. On day 5, entitled Beyond Self-Hypnosis, how to connect with your unconscious to get what you truly desire. We're going to basically resolve some of the biggest problems with self-hypnosis and goal setting in general. Just as we give you some simple tactics on day 3 on how to overcome the typical problems with goals, Day 5 is going to blow all the problems out of the water. We're going to look at how to go directly to the unconscious mind, figure out what the actual problem is, and what you can do about it. So that you're solving the right problems, not the wrong ones. You're setting the right goals, not goals that you think will get you where you want to go. And you get the unconscious mind to be a partner in the activity rather than something that's going to try and resist you on the way through that. Then we come on to day 6. Day 6 is a very interesting day because in day 6 you learn, again, how to overcome some of the typical problems people have with self-hypnosis. In particular, it's the problem of holding on too much. One of the biggest problems in self-hypnosis is that you activate the gatekeeper by the conscious mind interfering constantly. We're going to show you why that's the problem. We're going to show you how to overcome that problem. And we'll go through 4 classic methods that you can use in your own life if you find yourself in a position where you really want to make a change to a point where you cannot. So between days 4, 5, and 6, you'll have all the tools to deal with all the different situations that you can face, which might keep you stuck in life. Now, whether you deal with day 1 strategy, day 3 strategies, or day 5 strategies, or day 4 strategies, or day 6 strategies, it doesn't matter. You'll know which tool to use to solve whatever problems are in front of you, because each tool solves a different kind of problem. You'll know by the end of day 6 what to use and when to use it. That leaves a day way open for day 7. Day 7 is an exciting day. It's the final day in this program. It's entitled How to Completely Master the Power Self-Hypnosis Method and Get Incredible Results. Day 7 is graduation day. Day 7 is the payoff. Day 7 is why you spend all the rest of the week going through those exercises, doing the things we've been talking about, and changing at the unconscious level in order to give you the power of self-hypnosis in your life. In day 7, we're going to start looking at how you can take all the tools you've learned, all the techniques that you've discovered, and apply them to the actual problems that you might face in your life, from changing a habit to changing an attitude, from sleeping like a log at night to creating a life, the life of your dreams. A very important part of your graduation, a very important part of day 7, is to give you a practice schedule. You see, one of the biggest reasons why people stop practicing self-hypnosis is because they don't know when and where to do it. They just think, oh, I'll do it casually here or there. And as a result, they fall out of habits. Self-hypnosis is a habit. Self-hypnosis is a skill. Like any other habit or skill, the more you do it, the more it'll be there for you when you really need it. On day 7, you'll discover a very simple, easy, and fun program, a simple schedule that you can keep, takes maybe 10 minutes out of your life, and it means the power of self-hypnosis will be in your life, be there for you when you need it for the rest of your life. So that's a 7-day program in a nutshell. I'm going to encourage you to take the 7 days in sequence and not skip ahead. The days have been designed to build off each other. Each day has exercises for you to do, which is actually going to recondition your mind in certain ways to give you the power of self-hypnosis and make you successful. So remember, it's the tortoise that we're going to bet on, not the hare. Don't rush ahead. Don't skip ahead. Don't try and listen to it all ahead of time. Take your time. Listen to each day on the day. Make sure you do listen to the day. Don't skip through. And when you've listened to it, do the exercises, because it's not just about information that you have, it's about how you let that information change you so that you really have skills in your life. If you are getting excited and you want to do some more, well, then just listen to the same day again, because you'll find on each re-listening that you'll find nuances and subtleties that escaped you the very first time. It's part of the way your mind works. It works in layers. It learns in layers. So by all means, once you've taken yourself all the way through the 7-day program, it can be a tremendous benefit to start again at the end of the week and do another week of just listening to it in an hour a day, wherever you happen to be. The key thing is, on day 2, I'm going to present to you a very important procedure. I'm going to guide you through a hypnotic process designed to awaken your power of self-hypnosis inside of you. The ability is already dormant inside of you. On day 2, I'm going to guide you through a process that's going to activate that so you have access to it whenever and wherever you want it. Now, there's something we'll talk about more during the course of this program called the 21-day rule. As a rule, if you want to have a skill, if you want to have the force of suggestion work in your life, If you want to rewrite the blueprint in a way that keeps it rewritten, as a rule, you want to repeat the process for 21 days. So you want to do self hypnosis for 21 days on one topic. For the next 21 days, I'm going to ask you to stick to the induction on day 2 and listen to that one whenever it's time to do your self hypnosis practice, morning and evening, etc. Now, as you listen to the program, I'm going to ask you to do additional exercises to get you used to certain parts of self hypnosis. By all means, do those additional exercises. In fact, I want you to do those extra exercises. However, when it comes to using the power of self hypnosis, you probably have some ideas of what you want to resolve in your life already. I strongly recommend you spend 21 days listening to the setup instructions first, listening to that first induction to awaken the power of self hypnosis inside of you, and then turn towards your problems because you want the ability to be strong and firm and natural inside you before you start testing it on real life problems. Now, does that mean that you can't dive into real problems and make them work straight away? No, that's not the case at all. In fact, many people have done so and had wild successes as well. The only reason I'm giving you this caveat is in case you do that and that problem doesn't get resolved as quick as you'd like or it doesn't quite work out for you, then don't really take any notice of it. Just go back to day 2, start from scratch. This time, listen to the induction on day 2 for 21 days to give your unconscious mind a chance to awaken the power of self hypnosis in you, make it a natural part of you, make it a natural thing that you have access to. And then when you come back to trying to resolve your own problems, your own setting your own goals and making the self hypnosis work for you, you'll be ready for it. Okay, we're coming to the end of today's session. Now, before we end it, I'd like to take you through kind of exercise to make sure that you can really complete this program and get the most value out of it. Remember, we talked about that we have blueprints and we have to access different levels of that blueprint to keep things going within us. So, for example, the gym example, you go to the gym and once you're there, you feel great. It's getting there that's the problem. I'd like to activate that part of your mind that's going to make you successful with self hypnosis. So by the time you get there tomorrow to the actual process of using the power of hypnosis in your own life, your mind's already ready to roll and get the results that you want. They may have heard an old warning, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. With the power of self hypnosis, you will get it. So please make sure that whatever it is that you start putting inside there are things you really want. Now, I'm going to encourage you to dream wantedly, and I want you to go beyond what you think you want to the place where you get totally fulfilled by what it is that you do want. Here's why I say this. Let me give you an example from my own life. The first time I used the power of self hypnosis effectively was to land a contract with basically the best law firm in the world. I was hired as one of their lawyers. They paid for my law school and gave me my training, a great start in life. Now, at the time, I thought that that's what I wanted. I used the power of self hypnosis to totally focus all my attention to getting that job, and I got it. It was a tremendous period in my life. I enjoyed the work I did there, and it was a great time. However, as time went by, I realized that that's not really what I wanted in life. Whilst it's giving me some things, it wasn't giving me other things. The ability to enjoy life, to travel, to learn new things, see different cultures, these things were very important to me. And I'd hoped that I'd get that as a lawyer, travel to Hong Kong and China and the States and other places and work with different people. The fact was that whilst I did travel, it ended up being from one hotel to another. I saw very little of the things that I thought I would do. So I had to change my game plan. Each time I changed my game plan, I got a little bit closer to the fulfilled, happy life that I wanted. So sometimes we mistake the form of something, the job of the law firm, the independent company that you wanted to always have started, the lazing on a beach somewhere. You mistake the content of the experience with what you actually want, which is the experience, that way you feel, the thing that you do, the creativity, the free flow of energy in life. So when you dream, I want you to dream big and possibly big. When you dream impossibly big, what it does is connect you to the juice that makes these things work. It wasn't that I wanted to be a lawyer, it's that I wanted to work with people who are smart, it's that I wanted to work and be challenged, I wanted to be creative, I wanted to be well paid, I wanted to have the good things in life. These are the things I truly wanted. I thought the law firm would give it to me. So when you dream big, I want you to get in touch with that feeling that you have. What is it that power of self-hypnosis can do for you in your life? How will you be in 10 or 20 years' time, assuming there are no limits? Dare to dream that for a moment. Really feel that energy inside you, because to the extent you pay attention to the energy and not the content, whether it means you're living in a $10 million mansion and being fed grapes by personal servants, or you're a Nobel Prize winning scientist, it really doesn't matter. What matters is the energy behind each one of those dreams. Whether you end up being a physicist or a Nobel Prize winning scientist, whether you end up having the $10 million mansion or not, is totally irrelevant, because you'll end up living like you have that. The experience you would get for having done that is the experience that your mind really wants. It's where the juice is at. It's what motivates your unconscious. And in order for you to get the most out of this program, I'm going to encourage you to dream big. Find that passion, no matter how big it seems to be, and allow the enthusiasm of that to totally well up inside you and feel it. Connect that passion. Ask yourself, how will I feel where I have everything I wanted? The $1 million mansion, the Nobel Prize, people's adulations, people recognizing in the street, the collection of works of art, being a great artist, expressing yourself, writing a prize winning novel. It really doesn't matter what the dream is. Dream it and feel it. Ask yourself the vital questions. How will I feel? And who will I be, assuming I can achieve all these things? Dare to dream it and feel that. And I'm going to ask you to revisit that feeling, that idea, that dream over the course of the next 7 days, over and over and over again. Because in here, the power of self-hypnosis is going to show you how to achieve something at least as good as that. Let me rephrase that or reemphasize that. The power of self-hypnosis will show you how to get something which is at least as good as that, if not better. So with that idea in mind, spend the next 10, 20 minutes dreaming big, feeling big, and really memorizing in your skin, in your bones, in your mind, every nuance of what it feels to project your mind to that place of who you'd be and how you'd be. And let that guide your experience over the next 7 days.